Wednesday afternoon saying, could you do the commentary for Sky News about the meeting of King Charles III and Pope Leo, very historic in the Sistine Chapel, praying, and I don't know if you saw it, but it was, wow, amazing meeting. So that was fine. I said, oh, that's great. So I did that, and it was actually a 2-hour job to say things, you know. At the beginning, we didn't have many images, so we kept seeing the same thing, the Pope meeting the King, and then saying lots of things. So I prepared a little speeches to say, and said. So normally I edit them and I put them on my YouTube account, and but I haven't been able to do that yet because I came here and I've been very busy seeing the Philippines and giving talks and so on. But when I went to my YouTube account to see what when to load it and so on, I noticed that if on an intervention says Philippines, then I get 10 times as many views as any other. So you have here from when I spoke about Pope Francis visiting CNN and on the BBC, and then about the election of Duterte, which I'm not going to talk about now, but was just happening when I came to the Philippines last time in 2016. But you get tens of thousands of views of these videos instead of the usual several hundred. You know, if I'm lucky, I get 1,000. But if it's Filipinos who are my greatest fans, you get tens of thousands. So I really feel happy in this country, surrounded by my fans, and being here talking to you. That's really great. And I wanted to start with Cardinal Newman, who was beatified in England in 2010, and I was asked to be the spokesman for the beatification and then for the canonization in 2019 in Rome. And so I got to know him very well, and he is a very influential figure. This last week he was named by Pope Leo co-patron of Catholic education for the world. So, I mean, he would be very interested in this school. He himself set up a university in Dublin and a school in England. So he knew a lot about education. He knew a lot about many things, and he wrote many books. And then he's such an important figure. On the next Saturday, he will be named the 38th Doctor of the Church. So it's very, very select. You know, obviously you have to be dead to become a Doctor of the Church, but also you have to be a saint, and you have to have said something really, really important in the church. So there's only 38 so far. So in the company of Thomas Aquinas and Saint Augustine and all these clever people. And but one of the things that really I saw through his life, you know, I read several books, and I recommend people reading his biography, because he's going to be very important in the 21st century, very important, with his teachings on the laity, on conscience, on education, on faith, etc. But one thing that happened was that he became a Catholic halfway through his life when he was 44 years old. He lived 89 years, as you see. And when he became a Catholic, he lost everything. He lost his job as a preacher, of course, but he lost his job, his position, his house, his friends. All his friends wouldn't talk to him, his family, his reputation. So he became a pariah. And then he was a great communicator, and little by little he started working at the idea that this is not good, that if you follow the truth you lose everything. So many people became Catholic when during the 19th century in England, but they all had trouble. But Newman started a campaign inside of public opinion, and by the time he died, 44 years later, in 1990, 45 years later in 1990, it was okay to be Catholic. He had basically changed single-handedly public opinion in the country. So, after he dies, you have Oscar Wilde, you have Robert Hugh Benson, you have G.K. Chesterton, then Graham Greene eventually, and others, many important people who become Catholic, and right up to Tony Blair at the end of the century, who become Catholic, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine for all of those people, because one man took it to himself to communicate something and change public opinion in a country which in the 19th century was much more important than it is now, because it was the head of the empire and so on, and with no specific social media, no TikTok or Instagram, just newspapers, not even television. And he, by the writing, speaking, meeting, changed public opinion. So I'm very inspired, really, that individual people can change the way people think. Obviously, we know that other people also may change the way people think, like Marx, like Darwin, like Freud. These people, they gave us some bad ideas. So good people also gave us some good ideas. We want to be some of those. Newman was very keen on the laity. I don't know if you can read the size of writing, but basically, in this quote, he's saying that you should train the laity, you should give them good formation, good training, good preparation, and then the church would be known everywhere, and there would be a very good springtime. But then, this is a very famous quote, which has been quoted many times. After that, when I was preparing this talk last week, I found another quote, which is on public opinion, because he says on public opinion, the great instrument of propagating moral truth is personal knowledge. So the first idea was, we have to know a lot more. We all have to know more. And a man finds himself in a definite place. He grows up in it and into it. He draws persons around him. They know him. He knows them. Thus it is that ideas are born, which are to live, that works begin, that are to last. It is this personal knowledge of each other which is true public opinion. Local opinion is real public opinion. So it's really quite refreshing to know that we all create public opinion in our own environment. This man managed to change public opinion in a very big country. He's saying, look, talk to your friends, give them good ideas, get them to talk to their friends, and so on, through friendship and communication. He also wrote many articles, books, and so on. But he thinks that the key thing is, and this gives us here something to think about, to reflect, what can I do? I can do many things. Another person who was very interested in public opinion was Saint Jose Maria, founder of Opus Dei, of which I'm a member. And he would say that one of the greatest enemies of the church is ignorance. It's not enemies who want to attack the church, but ignorance. People don't know. And we need to have that personal knowledge. We need to know more things and know better. And it's up to lay people to shape public opinion in our environments. And then he wrote a letter, which is called Letter 4, because he wrote some foundational letters, the first 8 of which have been published. Letter 4 is entitled Charity in the Transmission of the Faith. So how to communicate the faith with charity, which is really the topic that I give talks on and I've developed. So I was very happy to read things that he wrote in the 30s and 40s, and he collected in this Letter 4, which is available for you to get. It's publicly available, and it's not very long. So that is something I recommend, that we all read Letter 4 about charity. Right now, the traditional media is changing, it's really collapsing, it's losing its audiences, and the social media has grown and taking people. Some people never read the newspapers, they get their news somewhere else, they get their news from social media. And also we're in a post-truth society where many things are said that are not true, clickbait and so on, but not only just to get your attention, but actually things that are actually not true. So I think this all spells, this chaos And this fragmentation spells an opportunity for each of us, because the field is open, just like somebody opened it, the field is open. And I think we all can benefit from this open field in communicating. If we have something to communicate, let's see if we can find something good to communicate. When Pope Francis was around, he said this, that we're called to communicate with everyone. So we heard before from Raul that we're all called to communicate, but now further to that, we're called to communicate with everyone, and we're communicating the love of God. So somehow charity is really a major part of our communication. It's like part of, if we don't do it that way, then we are not doing it as Catholics. So that's really good to remember. And one way I was thinking there's communication through friendship, as Newman told us, and St. Josemaria. Then there is communication of testimonies, people who lived holy lives. Two of those, Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati, were just canonized. I was told that there is some relic of Carlo Acutis in this school. So that's really nice to hear. There's also Echevarria, who's the guy in the bottom left, who was a skater in London, who was attacked by Islamists when he tried to defend some women who were being attacked, and he was killed. And then he was found out that he was a very good Catholic. He taught catechism, he went to Mass regularly, and so on. And so his life has been investigated. And Sister Claire Crockett at the top right, who's an Irish girl who was very interested in the high life, wanted to be an actress, used to drink, smoke a lot. And then she was suddenly converted when she was 18. She wanted to be famous, a famous actress, but then saw that God was calling her to be a nun. So she said, I'll have to just be a famous nun. And she has become rather a famous nun, because she died in an earthquake, age 33. And there's a lot of following. But one person that I personally follow, because I knew him, who could also be canonized, is Pedro Ballester. And he's got a Spanish name because his parents were Spanish, but he was born in Manchester and lived in Manchester all his life and died in Manchester. And, I knew him, and some people in the Philippines also knew him. And there's devotion to him in different places, because he became a numeri when he was 16 years old, and he died of cancer age 21. But he had this great happiness during the years that he was suffering from the cancer until he died. And he had many friends, and a great desire to bring them to God. So he was a great communicator through his happiness. So there is a documentary about him, which I recommend if you haven't seen it, which I use to show people what it means to give your life to God. Somebody asked me, what does it mean to give your life to God? I usually ask them to watch this documentary, because a picture is better than 1,000 words. And so it's beautiful to watch. And there is a biography, I've Never Been Happier, which is also available. And it's also available as an audiobook, a free audiobook, and so on. So it's very inspiring. So stories are very inspiring. But then I want to tell you now a little bit about the Catholic Voices Project, because that's the third way. I talk about communication through friendship, communication through testimonies and examples, and then communication through controversy, which maybe is unexpected to you. It's not a question of surviving the storm, but of dancing in the rain. That was a quote. So if you get some controversy, you can realize that is your great opportunity to say something. We have a great controversy now in the Philippines. Well, that's your great opportunity to speak. If there is no controversy, then maybe there is no great opportunity to say things. So we use it. We had a great controversy in England, which is what Pope Benedict was coming, and some people didn't want him to come, so they actually did a manifesto trying to stop the visit, and that created a lot of excitement for some and fear for others that something negative was going to happen. But for me and my friends in the media, showed that there would be a lot of interest in his visit. And then we were thinking, well, who's going to respond to media when they come knocking at the doors of the church? And we found that there were very few people, and those who were there were not so good, So we thought, well, let's train some people to be available and then to speak well. And that's the project, to speak well, understand what's going on, and use the opportunity. In the end, we managed to appear in 100 news programs during the visit of the Pope, which lasted 4 days. This experience and all our materials of the training materials were collected in a book called How to Defend the Faith Without Raising Your Voice. This picture here is the Filipino edition of the book, there on the left, Filipino edition of How to Defend the Faith Without Raising Your Voice, which is available here. But basically it has some explanation of what I'm saying today in much more detail, plus the data, the information about the different topics that come up in conversation. What we found was that the method which worked for us in media also works for people in their ordinary life, to talk to your colleagues, your family, your friends, the people at your school, the pupils, the people at university, different people. And so we identified these difficulties in communication. Sometimes there's a controversy, we get frightened, and we don't want to speak, not realizing that this controversy, this time of controversy, like now there's a time of controversy in the Philippines, this is the time that people want to speak about certain things. This is a very good time. You have such a great opportunity to speak about many things. And now, so I'm here, I'm thinking, wow, great. Now, another thing is anger. We get angry if we get attacked, or we feel under attack because we feel that maybe the people who don't like the church get more airtime. And this is what people say to me, well, the media is a bit biased because they give a lot of airtime to Richard Dawkins and the like, and not so much airtime to us. And I say, well, that's not because the media agree with Richard Dawkins. It's because Richard Dawkins is very good at communicating, and so he's cornered that market. So instead of thinking the media don't like me, think I'm not good enough for the media yet, so I need to get better. So my advice to people, if you want to get into media, but that's not my proposal to you, but if you did, then you can do it. You just need to be good, okay? Your target is to be better than Richard Dawkins at communicating, and then you'll get a lot of airtime. And so always think positively, And that is possible. That's what we did. We got a lot of airtime with good prepared people, and that works. And then defensive. Don't be defensive of the things of the church as if the whole edifice of the Catholic Church hang on your shoulders. If I'm not around to defend the church, well, the church is obviously going to collapse. Well, here's the news: the church will continue to be there, even when you are not here. So better than a defensive approach, which is not very attractive, then let's explain them very well. So what we said to people is, and let me tell you the spirit of Catholic Voices in 3 or 4 slides, is that the news is negative sometimes because there is a frame which collects all the public opinion up to then. And the public opinion about the church, unfortunately, until we arrive, because now, obviously, looking at this room, I see it's going to change very, very much in the Philippines now, right? But up to today, before it has changed, it can be quite negative. People have negative ideas of the church, and these ideas are in their mind, and perhaps they stop the people from listening to us. So I say, I think we should listen to what people are thinking and think, what do people think of me when I say I'm a Catholic, and think of that and so on. And I think, well, they think that the church is trying to impose its teachings on people, and the teachings are outdated and they're restrictive, and and they don't take account of people's needs and, lots of things like that. And in fact, the most frequent frame that I found over the years training people is that the church is perceived to be more concerned with its doctrine or reputation or possessions than in the well-being of people, so thinking, in the Vatican they have all these wonderful riches. If they could only sell them, then we could solve all the problems of poverty in the Philippines. That's not actually true, because if you put all the money and it goes into the pockets of politicians, then obviously it doesn't do anything, as we know. But in any case, it's not actually true, even if it were done properly. But that's the perception, and the church is more interested in its doctrine on life than in supporting a girl who's been raped and who doesn't feel able to go through with the pregnancy, or the person who's dying in hospital in pain and wants the pain to end and wants their life to end. The church seems to be more interested in its doctrine on life or in its doctrine of marriage than in the love of people who can't get married because they are of the same gender or because they are already married to someone else or whatever. The church is against all those things because she seems to be against love and against people. So it's quite negative so far. And so I ask people to say, okay, well, the next thing you need to think about, and maybe you'll think about it later, is what do I think of people who attack the church? And when I ask around in my research, then I say, people say, oh, well, I think they have a lot of money. They make a lot of, they impose their ideas through programs of, impose their programs on people and force bad ideas on countries through the money they give, or they don't take account of our needs, but they want to impose their dogmas. And it's a bit similar to what they think of us, in the end, because we think that they impose their ideas on us, and they think we impose our ideas on them. And so, why that happens is because, in fact, we have a lot of agreement. And this is the heart of Catholic voices, that every criticism appeals to a value which almost always is a Christian value, which we share. So, whether it's the Christian value of love for the poor, so people say, you have all these riches in the church, you prefer those than helping the poor. Well, there's love for the poor, that comes from us. Or you put your doctrine on life before the needs of the girl who's in need, or the person who's suffering. Well, the value of compassion for the victim, which is actually only starts in Christianity, or you put your doctrine of marriage before the love of people, the virtue of love, the value of love, and Christian love, which is the heart of Christianity, etc. So somehow there's a huge area of agreement, and sometimes we think of things as a battle, but in fact, no, it's a huge area of agreement. So we advise people in this communication method that they should think of the frame before giving the messages, because people who are Catholic and have good formation have already thought of their message, which is point 3. But we say, okay, take a little bit of time in your mind beforehand and think of the frame. Think of what people are thinking. And then once you understand that, the negative things they're thinking about you, ponder on the shared values, that common ground that is really so large, so much larger than we imagine. And then give your messages starting from the common point, from the shared value. And this we do. And I can give a couple of examples, because I remember that when the Pope was about to arrive, there was a meeting of the people protesting, some of whom were quite famous, Richard Dawkins, Peter Tatchell, Christopher Hitchens, etc. They were there giving speeches, and they had this meeting and they wanted to go through all their gripes and things against the Pope, and they let it be known that this meeting was happening. So we actually asked to send somebody from our team, and so he attended the meeting and listened to all the things they were saying. The church doesn't understand that it's a population problem, or the church doesn't understand that women are in need and so on, or people are suffering, or people want to love each other. The church doesn't understand any of this. And so after about an hour of going through the problems, because this is a very big frame, they asked Neil from our team to say, what do you think of this? And he stood up and said, well, I think that these problems are real problems, real issues, and we our dream is to be able to work on them together with you. Together, we build a better world together, even though we disagree. And the Pope will come to tell us this, that we need to solve these problems together. And so the fact that we were able to establish the frame was very helpful. They listened, they connected, they cancelled one of the protests, and they took the details of Neil and wanted to keep in touch during the Pope's visit. So we already had the first impact there from the beginning by understanding the frame. So I think it's really good to listen. I think that would be the first thing that we found from our technique, or our method rather. And then the common ground, which is often much bigger than we imagine. For example, on the topic of abuse in the church, we have a 100% common ground on everything we want. I remember we were having our training course, and in one of the media appearances I had, I was appearing against, there was two teams, and in the other team there was somebody who was a victim of abuse, had started a victims association to make claims on the church. He was called Peter. So having met him, I invited him to give a talk to my team of Catholic Voices. We were training for media so that we would know their point of view, so we listened to them. And we appreciated that what they wanted was exactly the same as we wanted. This must stop, this must never happen again. Perpetrators must be punished and victims must be helped, and so on. But in fact, we agreed on everything. And it just so happened that 3 days later, there was a TV the Pope released a document about new rules to combat abuse, and this was picked up by the BBC, who invited one of our team to go there. We sent somebody called Fiona, and when she got there, she realized that they had also invited somebody to speak against her, and this person was, which is normal, okay, and that this person was Peter, the person who had given us the talk, where we had already spent 2 hours talking about the thing and coming to the conclusion that we actually agreed on the shared ground, So I remember watching this program, and this is on our YouTube account, the same as the other ones that I'm going to mention. And the presenter says, well, Fiona, tell us about this new document. And she says, well, I'm very happy with it because it takes the thing forward. It's not the full answer, but it's work in progress. It's good. It says that this must be much more controlled, and there must be, we must do whatever it takes to avoid it happening ever again, and we must punish the perpetrators, blah, blah, blah. And then the presenter turns to Peter and say, well, what do you think? Thinking that Peter would speak badly about the church. But then Peter said, what do you think, Peter? Oh, I totally agree with Fiona. And so there was a big surprise. And so anyway, yeah, I think that this is happening, and that is and then, so Fiona, what do you think about what Peter said? And she said, oh, I totally agree with Peter. So this was, the news item didn't last so long as it was planned, because they like the heat and so on, and this heat wasn't happening. But the agreement was so obvious, and it was so amazing to see on TV that we Catholics want the same as everyone else, and that we want the thing solved, and that the frames against us were actually false, but because we found this common ground, which was very strong. And the last example was about the message. We believe in the frame, because once you understand the frame, you listen. People find that very helpful. We believe in the common ground, because once you find the common ground, you can actually agree and get much, much further. But then we believe that having found the frame and the common ground, you can give a very good message. So there was a piece of news where a priest had come out as homosexual, and he had been fired from the Vatican, and this had confirmed the frame. The frame is that obviously the Catholic Church hates homosexuals, and as soon as they see one, they get rid of him as far as possible, and that's it. So another Fiona, different, was preparing to go there to a very important show on the BBC, and so she thought about how to craft her messages, and they've got, the common ground that obviously the dignity of each person, but also the integrity of people who make promises and then have to keep them, because everybody wants people to keep their promises with integrity. So she was able to, in just 2 or 3 minutes that she was given, she was able to say, well, this isn't a problem of hate of gays. No, it's just somebody hasn't kept his promises, so he's had to go. But if he hadn't kept his promises by having an affair with a woman, it would be the same, So we want people to have integrity, like we all want integrity. But let me tell you why priests are celibate. And, priests are celibate because they have been asked by God not to give up the love of one person for the sake of loving many, many people. And that my brother, who became a priest last year, when he became a priest, he said, I saw that his love increased, He didn't have to deny love. On the contrary, his love was so great now. He loved everyone in his parish and everything, and very, very deeply. And it's a beautiful messages going out on this top show in the BBC at prime time. How much money would you need to get that time there to say those things? It's impossible. And yet this controversy allowed us to find the frame and the common ground and give our messages really, really with integrity. And so I think this method works. And what we found is that the method works for us in media, but it also works in ordinary life, in your life, with your colleagues and friends, your families. We also say to people, we want to give light, not heat. There's a lot of heat in these topics. But if we want to give light, then we should really find out more, get more informed. As Newman said, personal knowledge should be great. Formation, you should go to means of formation, but also information. Should get connected to the news, see what's going on. Definitely, if you want to tackle the problems of the Philippines, then you should be connected to the news, know what's going on all the time. Very important. Now, it's irresponsible not to be connected to the news, I think, because you should apply the formation you have to the information you receive and put them together. So that's really, and that gives you, being well prepared, allows you to give a lot of light on the topics. But we also talk about the idea that we have to witness. This isn't a battle that we need to win, that we have to witness to who we are. We are Catholic, we love people, and God is the one who's going to make the transformation through our communication, I remember I was giving a talk like this, and then there were questions, and then one of the questions was, okay, but with all these talks, with all these times you've been on the BBC, how many people have you converted? And it's just a funny question, I mean, I have no idea. Maybe a couple of people have watched the program, then maybe I put it on YouTube and I got a couple more, but who knows, maybe they hated it. I don't know the answer. But I know one person who's been converted, and that's me, because I used to think my role was to give my message and be very clever in giving my message so that people would be hoodwinked into agreeing with me. But now I've seen that I need to listen to them and understand where they're coming from and find this common ground. And from there, speak to them, and then they can understand what I'm saying. So it's a huge conversion for me. And I hope that we can all undergo this conversion. These are the 10 principles of communication of Catholic Voices. I've explained to you 3 of them, number 1, 2, and 9. But there are several others, and if you Google for them, Principles of Civil Communication of Catholic Voices, you You can see the list, you can have the explanation, examples, etc. Very easy to get them. And they have more ideas and more stories. But in summary, really what we're trying to do is this, is to make sure that when we speak, we always speak with charity and clarity at the same time. You know, some people say, well, I want to be very clear. Yes, okay, it's good to be clear, but not if it's at the expense of violence, you know. When I hear somebody, I must be absolutely clear, I get ready for the insult, you know, or the put down. Clarity, total clarity with integrity. What's your message with integrity? And then charity, you love the person, but it's not a diluted charity of saying, I love the person so much, I'm not going to say anything, because if I say something, they'll get upset. So you combine the two. Great clarity, great charity. How? Well, going to the common ground. And that you find that this works. So I think that I have these three thoughts for you. One is changing public opinion through friendship and influence. Changing public opinion through testimonies and stories. And changing public opinion by going to the common ground and speaking in a different way. And we all need to do that. We all need to communicate and have the aim of changing public opinion. So these are concrete ways for you to, you have to find the concrete way for you. And you are not going to be able to communicate on many things. So you should choose one area. Each of you, whoever you are, you can do something. It's not just for me or the people working in the Office of Information or the people running this organization or whatever to do this. Everybody can do this. So you choose the topic, and then you choose the medium you're going to use, whether it's, the medium. I chose traditional media, TV. I chose TV, but now I don't appear in TV so much, only occasionally, but obviously now I give talks and so on, so that's my medium. But you can choose Facebook or TikTok or magazine or a local magazine or whatever it is, the medium that you choose that you're going to spread your ideas. And then who is your audience? Who are you want to change public opinion of? Your friends, your colleagues, people, university students, married people, old people. Well, you choose. There's work for all of us in this great field. So, one day, about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided I would like to really know more about the topic of homosexuality and gender identity and so on, how to speak about that as a Catholic. So I did some research, and I wanted to learn more. So I did that. I looked into it, and then I wrote a paper, which it's available in the web. You can download it if you want, which is a sort of 20-page paper on how to communicate the teaching of the Catholic Church on homosexuality and gender. You just Google that title, more or less, and my name, and you find that paper. And that's the result of my research. And I wanted to do that, and I've been speaking about that in different places, giving talks and so on. So it has been very instructive for me. Choose a topic, study it. Once you know a lot about it, then you are eager to communicate to others. I chose, I'm going to give talks, and I'm going to try and appear in media as well. And so I did that a few times. Then I wrote the paper, and this paper, you can distribute it through the internet. And my audience is Catholics who want to talk, but feel that they feel, difficult. It's difficult to do this communication because they don't want to annoy anybody or hurt anybody. But what I'm saying with this paper is that you can do that without annoying, because you are going to join together clarity and charity in a way that you hadn't dreamt of before. So that's what I did. But really, you can choose something else. This morning when we were talking, and I said to people, think about it. And then somebody came out and says, I decided some time ago to talk about motherhood. And somebody was talking about, I'm going to talk about the effects of contraception, or I'm going to talk about family, how to be have families that last because so much divorce now, etc. So anyway, you choose the thing that interests you. I think what's interesting here, what's important, is you choose something, and everybody, all of us can choose something that we like and we are interested in. So it enables us to take the interest to read, prepare ourselves, and then the rest comes easily. Once you know the topic, you will immediately conclude what your audience should be, and then the best media for you to use, the best medium, and don't be intimidated by the new media, because it's very easy. You just need to ask your 11-year-old son, and he will tell you how to use media very easily. So now I finish, so you're very welcome to ask questions, or indeed to tell us that you are able to communicate in this particular area and in this way, or whatever. You give us feedback, or you ask any questions you like. But I want to leave this with you, this idea with you, that you can do something, and it's really interesting that you do it, and there should be as much variety as possible, and that this will be a gift for the country. Thank you. I'm going to read something. Does anybody want to come up now?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Thank you.
My name is Oscar Senyar. I am 80 years old.
Only?
Yeah.
It's so young.
So
young.
easily I am 20 years older than you, I think. At least
Than
20.
Who? Than me?
But,
thank you. Actually, I'm actually older, but I appreciate your care and affection.
Yeah. And in spite of the fact that, I have this very advanced stage of life, at 80, I still would like to do something more meaningful. And that, I would like to do something for the younger generation, ages 20 to 35. I'm really focusing on something which is, I think, quite serious these days, which is addiction, and being in that grip of social media. So that is the sort of area that I would like to delve into. So what is it that I'm trying to do, and what I have done so far? I have been trying to write books. I'm not a writer. I'm an engineer by profession. I used to be in the corporate world. I'm not into writing, but I'm trying very hard because I think I still have that energy to do something. So that is what I'm trying to pursue. So I have written quite a few books already, trying to address that issue with the youth. And in fact, I have called upon my classmates in college to help me, and they responded. So they've given me money. And
well, that's terrific.
2 months ago, I was able to collect about 300,000 pesos, for them to fund the book, so I can print them and I can distribute them for free. In addition to that, I have a YouTube channel, and for some of the messages that I would like to portray is, I can broadcast this in the YouTube channel for people who would like to find peace and faith in this very noisy digital world. Now, I find it useful to write on the QR code technology. The QR code technology, because it makes things cheaper. So with just the QR code, you can distribute materials. Before I ask my question, can I give you copies of this book first?
Oh, yes, please. So exciting that I'm so inspired by you doing things, you know.
These are samples of what I call a mission card.
Okay.
Mission card. So
You have to speak closer to the microphone so I can hear it.
yeah, mission card. On one side is one book, the other side is another book. One side is about the lost, the searching, and the becoming, and the other side is becoming a Filipino again.
Okay.
These are all with QR codes. So I'm giving you 3 books.
Wow. Well, I have something something to read on my way back now. It's a long flight, you know, it's a very long flight.
The first is Reflections on Faith, Life, and Survival in a Tech-Driven World,
Okay.
which I have co-authored with Father Belmonte.
So you're a great communicator, you see.
And the first one is I co-authored with Father Belmonte.
Okay.
And he was so good, you know, to have agreed to co-author with me. I tried to write on his name. The second book is about the lost, the searching, and the becoming. This is about addressed to people, you know, who are drifting in the grip
Okay,
of social
okay.
media. And I have the last one here, Soft Whispers in the Noise of Life. It's an audio.
Okay,
It's
okay.
an audio book. May
We'll
I
get
give
them.
this to you first?
We get them.
So now my question.
You have a question as well.
Okay.
I think I should ask you questions. Okay,
Yeah.
go on.
Now, what should I do to make this digital apostolate that I'm doing now even more effective? Thank you.
Even what?
Effective.
Oh, more effective. Well, I think you are the expert on this because you have started it, and you have to try. We have to try things and trial and error. You know, when we try things, we don't always succeed. But it's great that you've written things about addiction and about the technical world and so on. Well, it's impressive. So I think people can see that we can all do this. We can all do, not this particular thing, but we can all do things, something. The key thing, I think, is to become interested in something like you have done, and then to talk to people about it. I mean, Newman and St. Josemaria had this idea that we should just talk to many people in our own environments, and through that, we change people, the way people think. And so I recommend that. No special tricks, but just to keep trying lots of things. Talk about it because you're really interested. And then, well, God will make the difference too, you know. So well done. Thank you. Now, anyone else want to ask something? You don't need to have written a book to ask a question. So anyone can ask a question, you know. Yeah.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for that very enlightening talk. My name is Ashley. I'm a teacher an administrator at Parafloro School, and I'm an alumna as well. I want to go back to the title of the talk, especially the subtitles, How Parents and Teachers Can Form Filipino Hearts and Public Opinion for Integrity and Consistent Christian Life in a Time of Corruption. That's a lot of words, but my question is, in the context of Philippine society, corruption is or has been it's always been there as long as we can remember, and especially when we talk about corruption in politics. We all have more or less the same opinion. Of course, we don't like it. The church...
We agree.
Yeah. In the Philippines, the church still has moral authority. And the church speaks out very publicly against corruption. But my question is, how can we communicate the truth that Dr. Nidoy pointed out earlier, that corruption is cheating, and that there are many forms of corruption, that corruption is not just in politics or in government.
Yeah.
It's
in life.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do we communicate that? How do we, make that connection? Because so many people are outraged with political corruption, but they don't make that connection that
Okay.
it happens in daily life as well. Thank you.
Well, I think that the fact is it's in everybody's lips. Everybody's talking about it because there's a controversy. It's really good. So we use that. People are talking about it. So second, everybody agrees. You say everybody agrees this is bad and so on. And we want politicians never to do that again. And if they've stolen money, we want them to go to prison and to give the money back or whatever it is, all these different things. But we need a growth in virtue of the people. And so that's where you come in. You say, I want to give my message about the virtues, the civic virtues that we need in order to live in the Philippines properly from now on. You have worked out your message, your area of what you want to say. There is an ample opportunity now because the thing is in the papers, because the thing is in public opinion. In the public perception, this is being talked about. People are interested in hearing more and talking about it. So that's your opportunity. So that's where you come in and you say, look, I must prepare myself really well, having read the formation and having got the information of what's going on, and having decided that these are the virtues that I'm going to be promoting. So then I talk about it. And I think the opportunity is there. The bishops have written this amazing prayer that I was sent today. I've never seen anything like it anywhere in the world. So it's really, really explicit about the things and how it affects all of us and how it starts much earlier than we thought. So I think you can explain those things. So the thing of the current time is that it provides the opportunity to communicate much more, something really, really important that maybe in other times people weren't interested in talking about or listening to. So that would be my takeaway from what is going on at the moment. Okay. Oops. Anybody else want to ask something? Somebody here.
Hi, sir. I'm Pocoy Aglipay, parent here in Woodrose at Southridge.
You'll have to speak closer to the microphone.
Yeah. My question is, we all know that corruption in the Philippines are negative, and people are saying in the media that they fight for it. But the problem is the unity of the Filipinos to be as one. So
The what?
To be as one. So how can the Filipinos be fighting for one particular, to demolish the corruption in the Philippines?
Well, I'm not an expert on the Philippines. I know that I have my biggest fan base here. But apart from that, I've been here 48 hours on this. Last time I arrived only a couple of days after Duterte was elected, and I was asked whether lots of things to see if I were the world's expert on what would happen. So I wasn't. But so I'm not the expert on the exact details of how to fight this or how to transmit good ideas. But as I just said, I'm looking at it from the outside. I'm seeing this as a huge crisis, and rightly so, okay? And that this crisis is not just a political thing, it's a thing of character. And this thing of character, therefore, affects us all. And so one cannot say, if I were living in the Philippines, I couldn't say, oh, okay, well, I hope they catch the criminals and put that right. That's not enough, because there's some really structural problem here in people's hearts. And so who is going to communicate that to people? Well, it's yourselves, because you're going to work it out, and with formation and good information, and then you're going to explain it well, and hope to change public opinion on the matter, so that the children who are coming through the next generation learn not to be like that. So you build a different country, you know. We all try to change inside, and then the young generation, we try and educate them with this example out in the open and saying, this is not what we want to be. This is not us, you know. And it's like finding out that some priests are abusers. It's really tragic story. But then we have learned this is not who we are, and we're going to make sure that this never happens. Politically, you have things to do, but also politically, I don't know how many people in this room can affect the result, but in terms of public opinion, we can all do so. And this is what I feel your duty should be. Yeah? That's all I can say about the problem. Oh, look, my friend is coming to ask a question.
Hi, Jack. Thank you. My question is more on, I guess, because the Filipino culture.
Sorry?
The Filipino culture is very family-oriented, which in many ways is very good, right? But I think that can also be a con in terms of forming people, or even just calling out, right? Sometimes because we know they're our friends or their family, or even at work, they're our colleagues, we work with them. We don't want to call out because we're scared, right? Like you mentioned a while ago, love them too much, quote unquote too much, that we're scared to correct them, right? And I think that's one thing. But then, so people are scared to talk until someone does talk, and then everyone just starts adding on, and it becomes an echo chamber full of anger and hate and everything. And then you have all these rowdy protests and all. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, so how do we get, or what is that golden mean? Or what's the right amount of love, quote unquote, there? And how do we also teach people not to just to be more critical in a good way, to be more critical in a good way, critical enough that they know when to speak,
Yeah.
and also critical enough to not just ride along on the waves of emotion and hate and anger.
Okay. Well, if I were involved in giving means formation in the Philippines, then I would say that people need to come to this formation, and that there is a clear need that we have seen, because some people in power who say they go to Mass or who pray have done things that are, terrible. So that's not working. So we need formation to give to people, and people need to come to formation, and everybody needs that. That's one thing. But I think, how do people, my idea would be that everybody communicates, okay? It's not just for those who are good at it, but everybody. Now, not everybody has to communicate the same thing to everyone else, because then it doesn't work, but everybody so look at this problem, and then you have your opinion, and you should connect it to what your beliefs are, and then you should speak about it. You should not keep quiet, nor should your friends. But it should not be a battle. I mean, you're trying to inspire good values in society, and the thing now is that when you say that, everyone else also wants that. Whereas before, it seemed a bit theoretical. Look, I'm not interested. I have other things to do to enjoy myself than to come to inspire good values in society. But now we realize that we need to do that, or else we're going to collapse, right? So this inspires us to do more. So it's only trial and error. I mean, there is no secret golden mean, as speak out to hear and no more or whatever, or who. I think everybody needs to speak, and you trial and error, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. You do better next time, and keep trying. But I think now the aim should be that we all speak, and there's lots of things to say, and that's great, and we can change. If there are 80 people in this room, then that's a huge powerhouse of people, of opinions that can be changed by how we speak. It's really, much more than we think. Okay, somebody wants to ask something. Good.
Good afternoon, Angel Camno.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, my name is Angel Camno. We were co-parents here. Our son studied here. Two things about what you mentioned in your talk. First of all, the title, Your Voice Matters. So that means every voice. And the last part, when you said that we really need to prepare before we engage in a conversation. No. And it's true that most of us are afraid to be cancelled out because that is
cancelled. Yes,
that is the culture that's happening. But with teenagers, we talk about this at home. So we have our own opinions, and they joke about it that if all else fails in my future career, this is a joke, no?
Yes.
I will just go and do a government contract.
Yes.
That way I will be saved.
Yes.
So, they add a sense of humor to it.
Yes,
no?
yes.
But they know it's wrong. So,
Yeah.
I just like to ask you, how can we best have a conversation with our own children with regards to any topic, whether it's corruption or like controversies regarding our own faith?
Yeah. Well, in one level, you're the expert of how to speak to your children because you're a mother and I'm not a mother, and that's really good because you get the grace to do that. But it's really good to know that you have to have maybe in our day, when I was growing up, my parents didn't talk about many things which were important to them because they didn't think it was something they needed to talk to their children about. And I think now we've realized that we need to talk about many more things with our children than we thought before, I mean, like somebody was saying the other day, my child came in and say, don't worry about him, he's gay. This was an 8-year-old talking about some other 8-year-old. So obviously there's lots of things going on. So if the voice of the parents isn't there, then obviously we're missing out on the real education, so we're letting our children be educated in the street. So I think it's really important. But because you're inculcating values, good values, not just for corruption. For corruption, of course, they should hear from you what the problem has been now with the government and the politicians. You should hear from now, whatever their age, because there is an outrage, and this also will affect them, and they should learn with their friends not to do this in the future ever. Now. And so they should learn about that. They should learn about marriage, about same-sex attraction. They should learn at the right age, and all these things. And you will do that very well, because you will know that in the church we first love people and then we explain things through that love and so on, and that will be fine. And I'm sure you'll get lots of grace to do that well with your children so that they can learn that. I usually advise, I haven't had any children, but I advise people not to protect their children from what's going on, but to give them so much formation that they can go out at whatever age and just have a lot of sense of certainty in the world, So we're not protecting them from things that they're going to receive the moment they leave home. So we don't protect, we prepare people. So everything is open and we prepare them with lots of good ideas. You have discussions, you can have lots of conversations about everything. That's really good. I mean, I wish I had when growing up, but That was a different time then, but now it's a good thing to do. And now I think if we learn to speak well, then that also works in the family. I think this method of finding the common ground also works in the family, even for those topics that are controversial and so on. But that works very well in our formation of children. So I think we can learn from that. Okay, one more. This one. Oh, look. Hey. Haven't seen you for ages. Well, we'll say hello later.
Hi, Jack. Nice to see you again.
Wonderful, yes.
I'm Lance, if you remember.
Wonderful, yes.
So, sorry. The framework is a beautiful framework. I see opportunities with it with the short form, like TikTok, because you have a specific topic, as you said, and then you can, say your piece now. But what I find maybe challenging, but also a bit of an opportunity, it's not yet grown in the Philippines. It's already made precedents in other countries, which is the long form or podcasting. There's not much podcast platforms yet, but I see that personally I listen to podcasts now to get news. But the challenge I see is you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
And a conversation that your examples that you've shown us are mostly like 3-minute interviews, fast-paced news, traditional media.
Yeah.
But a podcast can last 1 to 3 hours.
Yep.
So which means I can be good maybe for 20 minutes and then, so I guess the challenge is, should I be a PhD doctor? And then, so how can we prepare for this and maybe take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, I think we need to develop that in the long conversations as well. Obviously, the one media I chose was short conversations. And so that's what I chose, but other people have to choose different things, and I think the long explanation is good. So the long explanation can be made by, I've been on podcasts talking about this method and about different topics, which last an hour too. I've done that. I mean, it's not what I do normally, but it has been. So how do you, by explaining the frame and saying this is what people think and they think this and that, that's quite a long explanation, and a survey of current public opinion on the matter, and then what different people have said, and then what you say, and then you say it in different chapters or different sentences and so on. So it's not so much of a rebuttal, but an explanation. So I think it's good that we are very well formed. If we're informed, we know what people are thinking, then we have formation to explain the topics. Yeah. So, like when we are with our friends, which was the first proposal I made, we don't just speak to them for 1 minute. We explain things in great detail and so on, and we have a conversation with here and there, and this happens, and if you're in a car in Manila, then you have a long conversation, so that's a good training ground, to have your conversations. Maybe, I'm now in traffic in Manila, and so I think it's right. We need to learn that, or at least some people need to learn to do that, and it's possible, and it's good. It will be great. I mean, I listened to the Rest is History podcast, and they not only last an hour, but maybe a topic they can do six episodes of 6 hours altogether to go through the start of the French Revolution or whatever. And I'm interested because they give lots of information and so on. So we should be able to we should also be able to communicate things about family, about marriage, about love, and about poverty, about integrity and so on in long explanations. I think that's really important too. So thank you for making this suggestion.
Good afternoon. Sorry. In the Philippine setting, sometimes it is very difficult to speak out against corruption because the audience is very jaded. There is a sense of hopelessness because it doesn't seem that the corruption will ever be solved, especially if we haven't really seen anyone being put to jail or being punished they just escape scot-free. We have never, in my time, from young until now, you really don't see anybody
Nobody's punished, right? Yeah.
getting punished. And it seems that there is not going to be any improvement despite what we say. What is your advice to help us keep speaking out, or to help people think and then act against corruption? And how do we really increase in hope because of that, that sense of hopelessness?
Well, we have to keep going, because we're not speaking just to get results, right? We are communicating things because we think it's good to communicate those things, those virtues, and so on. Imagine when Roe versus Wade was passed in the United States, and it was created lots of abortions for many years, but people kept marching, kept speaking, kept taking part in dialogues, in debates, in communications, in programs, and so on for 50 years, and then it was reversed, right? So if you had talked to somebody in the 70s or 80s, they could have said, oh, we've gone so long, 15 years, 20 years, nothing has happened, nothing is happening, nothing can happen. But that's not true, because lots more work was done for another 25, 30 years, and then it was reversed, okay? And then a lot of progress has been made, and the fight is not over. It continues. So, what is it that our hope is in God anyway? So our hope is always good, because He wins the last battle. In the meantime, we may feel that we're losing all the battles in between, but that's only temporary. But we must keep working, I think. So in this particular, I'm not, as I said before, I'm not an expert in the situation in the Philippines, but I can see that it is very much in people's minds, and I think it's really good. What I suggest is that we have dreams. I have a dream, like Martin Luther King, who had a dream that people would walk hand in hand, there were blacks and whites, and this took several decades to happen before it became a reality. There was a lot of racism in America. But we also must have a dream. I have a dream that there will be integrity in the Philippines, that money will be well spent, that people will not be corrupt, that people will not take the money. I have this dream, and I must stick to this dream, because Philippines is worth it. We are good people, and we want to get there. So even though it seems the dream is not happening yet, if enough of us have this dream and keep talking about it, then it'll happen. So it's beyond our power now, but who knows? We must keep doing the right thing. Many pro-life people died without seeing the thing reversed, but now it's been reversed. So in its own time. So I think hope. We are in the year of hope, of the Jubilee, so we could try and increase that hope. And I think we have come to the end, right? With the one more, okay, two more, right? Very good. Yeah. First, this gentleman with the check shirt.
Hi, Jack. I think I cannot greet you this way in a plane because the pilot might panic, the passengers. If I greet you, hi, Jack.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Not with the passengers in the plane.
So this is my question. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
This is my question. Since we want to shape public opinion,
Sorry?
and we want to shape public opinion, right? We want to influence public opinion. So because there are already people who are influencers, and they have a lot of followers, and they're already very good in communicating. So how about we make friends with them and we support them? Hopefully we form them, and then basically friendship, and then we get to them and they help us shape public opinion.
That's a good idea. People who are very good at it, and you give them good formation because you are their friend. I think that's a great idea, and they already have a follower. So I think both are true. On the one hand, you have people who are good influences and you give them good ideas to make an influence in the world, and that's really great. And on the other, not to be intimidated. You can also be an influencer. You can learn to communicate well. You can choose your topic. You know, somebody is an influencer because she has, you know, good face cream, and she tries them all, and then she's very good at giving advice and all the different effects and so on. So she's done a lot of work to get there. Well, we should be ready to do a lot of work to get to a position where we know a lot about something, so we can influence people with good ideas. But I think both are true. One, we must get better. Two, we must make friends with people who are already there and give them good ideas. That's really, I think, a great plan. Thank you. And then the gentleman in red.
Good afternoon. I'm Abit Dakila from Southridge. First of all, thank you for the communication framework. My question has something to do with how teachers and mentors can form Filipino student hearts and public opinion for integrity and consistent Christian life. Because as a teacher, as a mentor, we talk about many things with the students or mentees. My question is, how do we communicate to our mentees in such a way that we will not sound moralizing, but it just happens naturally as possible, to be able to give our message with clarity, with kindness, but at the same time not sounding to be moralizing. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? We're trying to do. So I suggest that you choose the kind of message you want to give. You are not going to be able to give all the messages in the world, but you know, if you're going to talk about integrity and good living and so on, well, then you find the common ground and you go there and you agree between you that you agree on these things, and you want to provide some more help to go further than this to an area where they already want to go. They want to do that. So that's why it's not moralizing and it's not off-putting, because you are starting from a point of commonality and shared value and so on. And that's really helpful. So I think that would be the thing I say. What I found is that it worked for us in media at the beginning, and we did it many times, but it's worked for us also in ordinary life, and I think you have to find the way that it works for you, but that's the main idea.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. All right. This lady's coming.
Before we officially close, we would like to take this moment to sincerely thank Mr. Valero for being with us today and sharing his wisdom. To express our gratitude, may we invite Dr. Raul Nidoy and Mr. Manny Inawat from the Power of Parent Formation and Administration to present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Valero.
The certificate represents all your fans in the Philippines. Okay, before we end, I'd just like to make an announcement. You know, the centenary of Opus Dei is coming up in 2028. To prepare for it, the Prelature of Opus Dei here in the Philippines has decided to conduct what is called a conversation and listening project. So all the faithful of the Prelature will be involved. And somehow it connects with the idea of Leo of talking with, the terminology is key opinion leaders. Okay? And of course, it's to build the relationship, it's a conversation, and to listen to them. So I'd like to ask also the people who are not members of Opus Dei to support us, to pray for us, so that we can prepare very well for this centenary. Maraming salamat po.
As we close today's program, let us remember that our greatest influence does not come from arguments or loud voices, but from living out shared values and setting an example that speaks louder than words. We sincerely thank Power of Southridge School for generously hosting us and for the support that made this event possible. And to all our guests, thank you for being a part of Your Voice Matters. May what we learn today guide us as we shape society through the witness of our lives and the values we uphold. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Mr. Valero, a group photo.
So we'll have a group photo with, as usual, the Philippines likes this kind of things, right? We'll have a group photo with the speaker.
Do you have a QR